What's going on, everybody? Lando here. I just want to make this quick training phase one. This is going to be a free training series on mindset and more specifically remote selling I've put together. So just going to give it to you free. I know a lot of the gurus and everything out there are going to try and hide this stuff, but like this is just what I've learned to close about 500,000 in sales in roughly 5 to 6 months. So it all starts like you have to realize like your ability to be able to sell something is only as great as the individual that you are, the characters and morals, the disciplines, the habits that you have, right? I remember I was just on a training call with one of our clients and I told them this. I was like, look, like, what are your habits? What time you going to bed? What time you waking up? Are you working out? Are you reading? Are you learning? All these kind of different things, because that's where it starts. If you want to be an effective closer, effective in sales, it all starts with the night before. I know we've heard that all so often. However, let's just actually go into it. So it's so hard to capture and picture in your mind, well, why am I making these sacrifices today? And at the end of the day, whatever your religious background or your view on life, the ideal self can be tied back to, the greats of Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, in the Western world, in the Greek, what became known as North America, kind of Western train of thought, and then as well as in the East through Taoism, through Lao Tzu, I think I butchered that. Anyways, in the Bushido code, which is the code the samurais live by. All in this idea of self-mastery, essentially, this ideal self. So you have to, it's so vital to understand this first and foremost. You are here, you want to get to here. And it's not a matter of just what steps do I need to take, but who do I actually need to become in that process, right? I'm a firm believer that life happens for us, not to us. And again, I'll touch on that later on. But all the events in your life have formed you into who you're supposed to be. That's if you have allowed them to do so. I don't want to hear this, well, I just didn't close a guy because of the economy. Well, I just didn't do this because I just didn't feel like it, or I didn't have the energy, or I didn't eat, or I didn't sleep, blah, 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 blah. It's all excuses. Again, if we zoom out, say your ideal self is a version that you'll be chasing until death. So you'll never actually reach that, which is kind of beautiful. I think Matthew McConaughey talked about it in a speech that he did. Nevertheless, you need to be always chasing something, because again, if your ideal self is making 50 grand a month, has a six-pack, is married, has kids, drives a certain amount of car, lives in a certain house. Once you attain all those things, then what? You're going to start to feel that life is meaningless, life is void. What the heck's the point of me even pushing ever more so, because I've made it, so to speak. And I think that is the biggest self-deception and self-deceit in today's day and age. So again, the ideal self is if you're here, the ideal self is a constant moving target, so to speak. You'll never be able to actually attain it, but that's the beauty of it. So why is it important to have? Again, it paints a clear picture of who you want to become, allowing you to reverse engineer for yourself in the present, giving you direction and a roadmap to get there. I think this applies to sales. You need to know, again, if I'm starting here, I need to qualify, I need to ask questions, I need to gather information, I need to figure out their pain points, where do they want to go, and then I need to sell them the vacation and then walk them through that process, the 3 pillars, all that kind of stuff, and then go into the closes, and again, where does your conviction level there? How versed are you in handling those objections? Exact same thing with life. You have a roadmap, you have a clear picture in your selling, but you need to have a clear roadmap in your actual life. So again, it paints a clear picture for who you want to become, because you have to realize this. Our eyes are front facing, which means that we're forward facing creatures, which means if we do not have an aim, physically and metaphorically, there's no point to do whatever we're going to do. Okay. So again, just like painting a clear picture for the prospect, the exact same goes for you. Map out where you want to go, and I'll touch on a worksheet I put together, and then reverse engineer it back. So cliche, I know you've heard it 1,000 times, but the question I would then ask is, why haven't you done it yet? Because chances are you've heard this advice so many times. You're looking for this magical paradigm that's going to completely shift your whole life upside down by one magical thing. That's bullshit. It just ain't gonna be the case. Okay, so again, if you haven't had reverse engineered it, and I guarantee you haven't, because I was there guilty of it myself, then you actually need to do that. And again, I'll touch on a very practical, simple worksheet that you can go about doing that. You need to begin to learn to negotiate with yourself. So again, it's sales and life. Life is all about negotiating. You want to get something in the future, so you're negotiating with your present self right now in order to make the sacrifices or put in the necessary effort in order to get to somewhere, okay? Same applies in selling. Same applies in your life, okay? And this comes down to the habits, the disciplines, the beliefs that are holding you back and the beliefs that are propelling you forward. Exact same thing, okay? If you can't persuade yourself to do the things you don't feel like, how can you expect to ethically persuade another human? It's just not going to happen, okay? So step number 3, you got to stop making excuses for yourself. This is prevalent. If I don't really feel like doing something, therefore I'm not going to, right? And again, I think that's why a lot of people are sold like this, get rich quick, or like just, they overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 5, this type of stuff, because they're making excuses for themselves. And it's one of the biggest detriments. There's this fine balance between holding yourself to your highest standards, but again, our expectations are higher than your standards, okay? So you're never going to reach the level of your expectations. You're always going to fall to the level of your preparation, aka these standards. So you got to stop making excuses for yourself, because at the end of the day, nobody gives a shit in selling or in your life. The prospects on there because they're like, what can you do for me? How can you benefit my life? It's the exact same thing with yourself. You can't have this negotiation where it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to eat this pizza one time, and then it's 2 times a week, then it's 3 times. Next thing you know, you're fat, out of shape, not good looking, whatever it is, right? And again, I'm only speaking from personal experience because I have been there, and I'm trying to avert that for you because it's extremely difficult. Ties into this idea of Kaizen. Kaizen is a fancy Japanese word that means constant, never-ending improvement. A beautiful image that until you die, you always have something to work on, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in your job, whatever you're doing, relationally, whatever that is, there's always an area in your life that you need to improve on, right? And it's not getting overwhelmed by it. There's a million things to do, because you are pulled in a million given ways in each and every single day, but rather it's this idea of, I'm going to put my best foot forward despite the million things it could do, and I'm going to focus on this one thing to improve that one area. And if I've done that, that's a check in the right direction, because again, life is short, but it's extremely long in the same token. So again, there's a mentality of Kaizen, constant never-ending improvement. And as well too, we kind of touched on this before, gives you a sense of direction. I think is one of the biggest things that salespeople do struggle with, is they kind of don't really have a sense of direction. Every single sales call is kind of different, and it applies directly into your lives. If you do not know, how something is going to play out with having enough lee room for variation in that, then you're kind of just drifting in the wind, so to speak. And I think it's one of the biggest things that a lot of people, what are your passion? What are your hobbies? What are this? What are that? I don't really know. It's like, what do you mean? Have you not thought about it? Why aren't you thinking about it? Like, what is holding you back? What is so important that you don't even know, like, what you're passionate about? What turns you on? What drives you? I think, and if you don't know, isn't it a pretty good thing to figure that out? Just a thought. So again, we're going to keep this pretty short and sweet. I've included a worksheet here for you. You can pause this video, make it a separate Google Doc, or you can reach out to me. My email will be in below, because again, first video, we're starting this thing up. But again, you've heard this a million times before, but you don't want to skip this, because again, you need an aim for all these reasons before. You need to, because that's going to teach you how to negotiate with yourself, which means you can keep the promises to yourself, which means that is the biggest thing on building self-confidence, which applies directly into your selling career, or whatever career that is, or whatever you're doing, or whatever person you're interacting with. You have to keep the word and your promises you keep to yourself. So you can pause this video here. Ideal self worksheet. Answer the following questions below with as much detail. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory, right? So This question, like, often people are going to be like, what does this ideal version of yourself look like? How do they act? And it's just like, okay, well, they have this money and they look like this. That's cool. And like, obviously you need to have goals towards that. I'm not saying that, but it's like, here, I'm more concerned about the mental game. How do you show up to the world? What's your character traits? Are they integrity, abundance, wisdom? Whatever they are for you. How do you think? When I explain, or when I, ask you a question of, where do you want to be in 5 years? There's going to be a million different variations to that. Some people, I don't know. Some people are super drawn out, very specific, whatever that is. I'm more thinking like figuring out how your brain got to that conclusion so rapidly and so quickly. And that's tying back into the subconscious mind, which brings it to the subconscious. I'm going to touch on that in another video. Okay. So again, you need to know how you operate so that you can learn how the basics, needs, and individuals of a human being can operate. So again, you can apply that directly into your sales. Okay, and that's going to start with you. Number 2, what does a typical day look like for your future self? Are they waking up early? Are they going to bed late? Are they working out? Are they not? Are they prepping before their calls or not? Whatever that is, whatever it is, what does a typical day look like for them? Okay, and then again, the question is, why are you not doing that currently at this moment right now? Because I'm amazed with how many salespeople I talk to, or people in general, and like every day is like variation. And it's insane. I don't know how people do that. Again, I'm very rigid, I guess, in that sense. But morning and night, rule of thumb, just like same shit. Like, wake up at the same time, go to bed at the same time. I'm not going to get into, all the physiological, your body differences it makes through your microbiome, your cellular repair, your muscular repair, all those things, your nervous system, your stress, anxiety, to how you look, how you feel, and then again, how you perform, which then it leads to how you impact the world around you, how you interact with others, which again, that's his butterfly effect, which you don't know the impact that it's going to have. So again, you really got to think about that. Step 3, what are your big goals? Small goals are ever evolving and changing. So what is like your lifetime goals? So like people are like, set your goals. And it's like we talked about this. You have to have goals, but you should have, those goals are going to be up for change, up for grabs, so to speak, but you should have lifetime goals. Okay. Whatever those lifetime goals are, and those should be constants. These smaller goals kind of spiderweb on that, but you have 4 to 5 big goals. So that's, I want to, become the president of the United States, or I want to build 10 different schools in Africa, whatever the heck it is. Those big goals do not change. The little goals just, again, add to the big goal. What qualities and attributes do they possess? So the best way to figure out, let's say I want to develop discipline, but I don't have it. One of the best ways is to ask family and friends. What are you great at? What are you weak at? So again, pause this, screenshot this, do whatever you got to do. And like literally make the answers, okay? So when I did this, I've done this multiple times, and it surprised me. The common traits and the common themes, 8 people said I was really good at giving relationship advice. Wild. I've been single for 3 years. So go figure that. I would have never known that about myself if I did not ask. And again, this is going to be difficult. You have to be vulnerable to this. Nevertheless, this is going to give you a great non-biased baseline to start. So again, screenshot this, write this out, send this as a text. Like literally, I sent this exact text. People are going to think it's a little bit weird. It's all good. You're already acknowledging it's a weird request. Like literally, what the hell do you have to lose? Absolutely freaking nothing. And as most importantly, write down your answers, okay? So that's kind of the ideal worksheet. We got 2 more questions here. What type of questions do your ideal self ask themselves on a daily basis? You probably heard this before. The quality of your life is determined by the questions you ask yourself, okay? So are you thinking, for an example, on a sales call, how could you blow a call like that, right? at the end of the call, you don't close that person. You shift it to how can I improve next time so that mistake does not happen. Again, slight shift almost sounds corny, but instead of like going into a scarcity mode where it's like you start beating yourself up, you're an idiot. You're like, no. Okay, I learned this for a reason. What can I take away from this so that next time it doesn't happen? Two completely trained thoughts, which again, compound that over time, leads you in two vastly different directions. Okay, and last one. What is so special about them that you don't already possess? Ties back to the quality and attributes that you possess. But I really want to dive into this. Your self-worth and your identity does not come from those things, but who you are as a person and how you show up in the world, okay? So your self-worth and identity cannot be attached to material objects, cannot be attached to things on the outside. And again, you're hearing this all at the same time. Same thing with sales. If your self-worth and identity is attached to how many deals you close a month, you can't control that. You just can't control that. You can only control your preparation, your diligence on your follow-up, your diligence on the calls, and how you're negotiating skills, or your communication, your body language, your tone, everything like that. Those are what you can control. You can't sit on the outside and try and control the uncontrollables, okay? So hope that this short training helps. I'll be putting out more videos weekly, more for like remote closing, and as well as just life in general. Again, and I'm not trying to be some like guru or anything like that. Like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I literally have just like, okay, look, I've dealt with some shit in my life, which I'll release a video about that later on. But what has worked for me, and maybe it's going to help you. Okay, so hope this finds you well. Take care, everybody, and we will talk to you soon. Lando out.